White nationalist Kyle Chapman says he's assuming control of the Proud Boys and renaming it to the Proud Goys after he uses racial slurs to describe Enrique Tarrio on Telegram. For those of you who don't know, Kyle Chapman is based Stickman, the Nazi who just shows up at protests with a stick, hence the name Based Stickman. I've told you guys that the alt-right is just full of orcs before, right? I've told you guys that, right? That the alt-right, they're just savage, feral fucking animals that care about nothing but strength and will attack their own. Yeah. The Proud Goys. Anyway, gonna have to self-censor a lot in this one, but it's worth going over. Proud Boy announcement. Due to the recent failure of Proud Boy chairman Enrique Tarrio to conduct himself with honor and courage on the battlefield, LARP, I have decided to reassume my post as president of Proud Boys, effective immediately. Our logo will be forthwith changed to reflect the core beliefs of Proud Boy members. Going forward, we will now be known as Proud Goys. The coup is complete. The grifting leaders have been deposed. I'm going to be providing commentary on this, by the way. So, for those of you who don't know, the Proud Boys are a fascist, chauvinist, political violence group. And the decision to make Enrique Tarrio their chairman, their leader. Let me get a picture of Enrique over here. Enrique Tarrio. The decision to get Enrique as their guy was actually a pretty smart one, because as you can tell, dude's not white. Now, he doesn't look too non-white. Wouldn't want to put off your base, but he's non-white. Which is, you know, a convenient sort of deflection if your movement is completely full of racists. But anyway, they and under Enrique, they have been able to weather a decent amount of media attention. Yeah, he was on Tim Pool's show right before I was. They have been able to weather a decent amount of media attention that people like Gavin McInnes couldn't really lead them through. Because Gavin McInnes is a fucking psychopath, when there are voice clips of him saying to, like, choke people and throw bricks at them and beat them out and shoot them in their dreams and all that stuff. So, McInnes not as good at weathering the international optics, but I like this because it really, like, eventually, like a rubber band, all things pulled will eventually snap back to their breaking point. We will no longer cuck to the left by appointing token Negros as our leaders. See, that's what I just said they did, except I use different language. That's how he processes that information. We will no longer allow homosexuals or other undesirables into our ranks. We recognize that the West was built by the white race alone, and we owe nothing to any other race. Proud Goy members will pay homage to the white men who gave their lives to build Western civilizations. White men who provided their intellect, inventing the modern world, spreading enlightenment. I really like this point, by the way. The term spreading enlightenment. Do you guys know what Europe was like before the Enlightenment, before the Renaissance? It was cringe, people. It was a bunch of stupid, shit-eating peasants wandering around in the mud, being beaten to death by their lords and the knights they appointed, okay? It was the Renaissance and the Enlightenment values that came with it that ended up propelling Europe to a place of relative global prominence. What are those Enlightenment values? Things like democracy, egalitarianism, you know, individual freedoms, liberalism. The problem is, that's really bad history. Well, obviously I'm simplifying, but no, that is the case. The thing that made Europe internationally and globally prominent were values that people like Stickman reject. That's the thing that I always find funny. They talk about, yes, the Middle East was far more developed way before Europe, and China as well, yeah. But it's important to remember that white nationalists will take credit for the development of Europe into a glorious continent, and then themselves reject the values that put it in that position. And provided the framework for lesser civilizations to thrive. We acknowledge white intellect and the Faustian spirit, the intangible quality that, I assume he typed this one-handed, that sets whites apart and brings us into the realm of the metaphysical. We will boldly imagine believing white people are semi-deity metaphysical beings and that we're being destroyed because of TV that has interracial marriages. We will boldly address the issues of white genocide, the failures of multiculturalism, and the right for white men and women to have their own countries where white interests are written into law and part of the body politic. We will no longer stand by as whites are murdered in the streets because of the color of their skin. We acknowledge that the two-party duopoly is corrupt and beyond redemption, and a third position, body politic, is the only way forward. We honor our ancestor warrior spirits, LARP. They smile upon us, LARP, and curse our enemies, LARP. God is with us, woe to those who stand in our way, LARP. We are Proud Goys, Deus Volt. Kyle Chapman, new Proud Goys president. He proclaims loudly to a 142-member Telegram group chat, I guess. Oh yeah, guys, he wants a third party. Isn't that what we want? That's awesome. Anyway, this is one of the things that I like about these like fascist movements is that invariably they snap back to the center. Now, of course, this isn't a coup. Well, it's an attempted coup, but it's not going to work out. Enrique Tarrio is still the leader of the Proud Boys, but it's really funny. Like, can you imagine the infighting? Like, imagine all the people being like, can't believe we have to have a fucking darky as our leader. And then the other guy's like, dude, chill out. Yeah, I get it. It sucks. But like, we're under a lot of media pressure right now, you know? They're like, yeah, okay. But eventually these things snap back to center. And organizations which are as characteristically deranged as the Proud Boys can't keep optics games up for long. They're not capable of it. They literally can't do it. Yeah, the mask is loosely fitting and they will never be able to keep it on for very long. Anyway, I just thought that shit was incredibly funny, you know? I like fucking jerking himself off while he you know, while he types out about the metaphysical spirituality of the white race. Man, I wish people weren't so fucking weird about race. It's so insane. I've said this a million times before. I'm not trying to come off sympathetic, but like I really feel bad for white nationalists. Imagine your life being so empty and pathetic that you have to like attach it to like a group identity in that way. They're the ultimate they're like the ultimate collectivists, you know? People say I'm a collectivist. I don't give a fuck about anything, okay? Of like group identities, I'm just me. I reject all group labels apart from ones that I think accurately describe things I'm going to do or going to believe. But I don't attach my value to like Listen, take a look at my relationship with the online left and tell yourself that I have a group attachment to the concept of socialism, okay? Nope. Or if I did, I have a very, very silly way of showing it, okay? But the white nationalists, you know, they're like usually like their lives really suck or they have like some pent-up resentment or something, and they're like, okay, they can't keep doing it to us. They can't keep doing it to us. And then they you know, they attach it to the white nationalist identity. And man, I don't know, like fuck, it must really suck to be in that position in your life. Develop a hobby? I don't fucking know, dude. White people aren't special. None of the color of your skin makes you special, okay? There's no academic or biological evidence to suggest that white people are any sort of distinct genetic entity from any other group of people. All genetic expressions of race exist on a spectrum known in biology as a cline, and there is far more diversity within these clines than there are between them. I've said this multiple times before, but in Africa, in the continent of Africa, if you take the DNA samples of two random people in Africa, and I don't mean like a South African descendant of the Dutch, I mean two black Africans, there is more likely to be a greater genetic difference between those two than there would be if you took a random black African and a random white European. How crazy is that? It turns out it's not actually easy to determine true genetic differentiation through fucking skin color, you know? That would be like trying to determine which like Xbox generation is the best based on the color of its hardware, you know? Like, or like the, what's it called? The shell, like the color of the outside or something like that. Like, oh, well, this one is green and this one is black. And Well, obviously, that's why they're different. Oh, the case. Thank you, the case. Sorry, the chassis. Yeah, whatever. But anyway, it's just a complete waste of time. People need to stop being weird about this. Why not focus on issues that actually meaningfully affect people's lives? Stuff like healthcare and education. Well, what's the white nationalist answer to both of those things? Education is being ruined because they're letting black people in. Healthcare will never work because all the stupid fat black people suck up all the money. Okay. What if we talk about infrastructural investment and the repurposing of our democracy, making it more effective, making it stronger? We don't want to build infrastructure for anything that's going to help the roads of black people travel across our country. Those should be our roads. We should be paying for it. And additionally, I don't care about a fucking democracy in this country. Democracy is cucked. All the brown and black people are voting out the white people. Okay. Like, everything's about that to them. You know what I mean? It's the trademark characteristic of an ideologue. I can have a conversation about education without invoking socialism. You guys have seen me do it. That's one of the reasons why lefties call me a lib. It's because I'm not an ideologue. I'm capable of having a conversation about a given issue without tying it back to some like central narrative that I have to attach to everything, you know? For some people, that central narrative is something that I think is pretty legitimate, like socialism. Socialism is a real economic set of principles that relates to a lot of things in our society. And then some people bring it back to fucking race. The fuck does race have to do with like anything, you know? Like at all, like it's so fucking irrelevant, you know? But they obsess over it. They obsess over it, and a lot of the people who obsess over it are like born in fucking white suburbs to upper middle class parents who weren't given enough attention by mommy and daddy, who had two fucking black guys who went to their high school, but they weren't in the same class, and they have no fucking idea, but they went online and they read story after story after story about the black knockout gangs who would run up and beat the shit out of white people, or about black welfare queens or whatever, and they've developed this like incredibly complicated internal world that is nothing at all like the world we live in. They live in their world, and their world is one in which black people and brown people are parasites in this country, and that white people are like the glorious deific purveyors of civilization. And it's a story they tell themselves. And like every other story people tell themselves, they do it because it makes them comfortable. When you guys are falling asleep and you're imagining an alternate universe where you have superpowers and you're fighting like alien bad guys or something with sick action moves that you can time out in your head to the beat of songs you like, that's a story you tell yourself because it makes you feel good. It's sick. Sick as hell. You're like, You know what I'm talking about. When you imagine stories where you actually confessed your feelings to your high school sweetheart rather than letting those go unrequited for years before moving apart, and it turns out she liked you the entire time, that's a story that you tell yourself to make yourself feel better. Before later when you feel worse about it. That's kind of like a rubber band one. And the same as those stories, the same as those narratives, the white nationalists tell themselves a story where they are the oppressed, the downtrodden victims of a system which is looking to destroy them, which is looking to destroy whiteness, and they have to fight to defend it. But like all unhealthy stories we tell ourselves, there's something you need to grow out of, so hopefully that's something these people can learn to do. Though I have to say, Based Stickman is like 35 and still doing this shit, and he's like declaring his secession of the movement to group chats with like 100 people in it. So I don't know if this guy is going to develop the emotional fortitude to overcome this particular personal dilemma.